So I want to talk how the mind, the logical mind, the left brain, the programmed mind, can keep us locked into patterns that don't serve us, that stop us from connecting to the authentic self, stepping into allowing the universe to unfold inside of us, which is what happens. The universe is within and around us, and it unfolds in us. It's certain thoughts that we have, so we can start to recognise certain thoughts that we have in our minds that loop around, that keep us stuck. So particularly for me, I had one that was, in really moving. I retrained as a hypnotherapist in 2017. Slowly I've been moving into this field. It's very clinical to start with because I was afraid to do what was really in my heart, which was to work with the soul, which was to work with the higher self, which was to go beyond the mind. I was afraid to do that because I had these thoughts that was trapped in my mind that were telling me, like, well, what if people don't believe you? What if people ridicule you? What if you can't explain to them? What if you can't satisfy them logically through the mind with that stuff? And that was a thought that kept me trapped for longer than I needed to be trapped, kept me in resistance to surrendering into that which I was being led into. It blocked me from moving into it. Yes, I would go there with some clients where I felt safe with certain clients, but I didn't really dive into it because I had those thoughts that were locking me, trapping me, making me feel stuck. And that's what thoughts can do. So thoughts are not who we are. They're a product of the brain. And whilst you can't see a thought, right, you can't see it with your eye, so it's not physical like you can see a tree, but it's still real, right? It's still powerful, it's still tangible in a different way. So that thought for me stopped me in my tracks from really moving fully into that which I was being led to move into. So I want you to look in your life and ask you, what thoughts are keeping you trapped? There'll be something somewhere in your life that you're being guided to do, to dive into, but there'll be certain thoughts that are keeping you locked in fear. And those thoughts become like an entity, right? It becomes like a being, like an actual being that's literally got its hand on your chest saying, whoa, hold up, where do you think you're going? That's what it becomes like. That can be the power of our thoughts when we give them power. So identify those thoughts that are blocking you, and then take a step back. Understand that you are not your thoughts. Thoughts are not who you are. Start to become the observer of your thoughts. Start to notice in your day thoughts that come by, and you're going to notice some pretty crazy shit comes into your mind, right? We have some pretty crazy thoughts that come by. That's not who you are. Those thoughts are coming from the collective all around us. Massive amount of mind control programming that's been inserted into the consciousness that we've all absorbed into our psyches. Those thoughts are meaningless unless we give them power. And who's giving them power? You, consciousness, whether you're aware of it or not. So when we become aware of those thoughts that we're giving power to, wow, we empower ourselves. Because when we're not aware, we're disempowered. We're giving our time, giving our focus, giving our energy to thoughts that are not us. But we empower those thoughts to become us. Well, not to become us, but we empower those thoughts to take the steering wheel of our lives, to direct our lives. So they become like physical things, parts, entities that start taking over our lives. So we have to become aware of those thoughts. So to go through your day, start observing, start realising how much crazy shit comes into your mind. And you can laugh at it. You can laugh, you can think, wow, okay. You don't have to judge it. In fact, do not judge it. The worst thing you can do is judge those thoughts. Just realise it's fine. There's nothing to judge. But you also don't have to then say, but that's who I am. You can say, but that's not me. And you can just turn away from it. And when you identify the thoughts that you aren't turning away from, like the one that I had where I was saying to myself, well, I'm scared to really do what's in my heart because I'm scared that people are going to judge me. People are going to say, well, you're crazy, what you're talking about, you can't prove it to me. And I started to realise I don't need to prove it to anybody. At the end of the day, I know what's my truth, and I felt my presence, and I know that. And for me, I am resonating to work with people that also are waking up to that truth, that know that truth within them. So I started to realize that that was just a thought that was keeping me stuck, keeping me fear, trying to keep me in the familiar, because the mind likes what's familiar. So it likes to bring up lots of crazy shit, lots of fears, to keep you stuck in what's familiar. Because even if it doesn't feel comfortable being in the familiar, because you've outgrown it. And that's what often happens. We outgrow where we are, and then we resist. We cling on to those thoughts that keep us stuck, because the mind wants to do that. And we start to realise that and become aware, and we start to have trust and faith, and we can start to say, actually, no, that's not me, and I don't need to prove that. And we can start to challenge those thoughts, change those thoughts. Then you're freeing yourself from that prison, and it's a self-imposed prison. But when we become aware of it, we can realise that no one's keeping us there but ourselves, and we can walk right out of that and right in to our destiny.